Hi, friends. Welcome back to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. I'm your host, Lisa Huff, and I am joined today by Samantha Harman, also known as Samantha Beauty Confessions on Instagram. Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for coming on today. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. I am good. I'm excited to be able to chat with you today.
Me too. We've been talking about this for a while. A few weeks ago, we recorded an episode for Sam's podcast, so you guys will have to go and give that a listen as well. But I wanted to flip the script and hear more about her as well. We talked about this on her episode, but I feel like I have known of Samantha for many years now. I started following you on Instagram like way back in the day. We'd always kind of like DM each other a little bit, cheer each other on, but we never got to know each other super well. And when she had me on her podcast, she got to know my story a little bit better. But today I want to hear all about you and your story, you and all of the things. So I know you just got back from Premiere Orlando. How was that? I know I messaged you. I was like, we still on for tomorrow? You're like, oh my God, my life's been so busy. But yes, we are absolutely still on. How did the show go?
It was great. I don't know if you've ever been to that one, but it's so
I
big.
haven't.
And so yeah, my brain, I feel like it takes a couple days to recover from
Yeah.
all those emotions and the energy and all of that. But the show, it was amazing. And I always like that one because again, there's so many people there and the energy in the room is just kind of crazy, like in the best way.
Yeah. So when did you get back from that?
So we actually got back on Monday, I guess Tuesday. We got back Monday at 3 a.m.
Okay.
Our
Wow.
flight got delayed. We had some
Oh,
delays. I know. And so now I'm like, in the future, I think I'm going to fly out the next day
yeah,
at
that makes
shows
sense.
instead of trying to do the evening because I feel like when I do the
Just
evening, it always,
recoup. Yeah,
yeah,
that makes total
it's
sense.
too much. It's like way too much for me
So
to do it
what were
all.
you teaching there? What was like your class about?
So I taught social media and I taught kind of like just a basic class on it. And then I also taught a
Mhm.
more in-depth like video editing class and
Amazing.
talked to everyone about how to get out of their own way when it comes to putting yourself out there online,
Love.
which is, I feel like, much needed in the industry.
Yes. Love. So I'm sure we will get into that. So why don't we go back? You got to hear all about me and my story. Why don't you go back to what feels appropriate and kind of share your story, what has made you who you are? And I'm sure I'll interrupt 1,000 times and we'll go in a few different directions, but why don't you take it away wherever feels appropriate to start from?
Okay. Yeah. So both of my parents are in the industry
Okay, love
and
that.
my mom did hair for, I think, like 18 years, and now she owns a cosmetology school.
Wow.
And my dad, he owns like a salon centric
Wow.
franchise.
Are they still
So
married or no?
no, they're
Okay.
not still married.
Okay.
So growing up, I kind of saw my mom be a hairstylist, my dad have the business, and then my mom have the school. I kind of saw all areas of the industry.
Very
So I,
amazing.
so I was like, I'm not doing that. No chance.
Okay.
So I went to college.
Okay.
Then after spending a lot of time and money there, I was like, actually, I think my mom was onto something. I think I'm going to
Mhm.
go to her cosmetology school.
Wow.
And when I did, I I just knew immediately that that's
What
what
did you go to traditional college for and how long was that?
for public relations and
Okay.
marketing. So I
Okay.
mean, kind of it's the same, like it's helped me a lot, I will say,
Totally.
but I did not graduate. I have
Okay.
like 12 hours left.
Okay. Dang. But you knew. You were like, this is not for me. I don't need to waste any more time.
Well, so the way college is, at least for me, I didn't ask questions back then. I didn't understand
Yeah.
all of that. But
Yeah.
how my situation worked was the classes I had left, while there weren't many, they all
Mhm.
required you to they needed to be taken in order. They were prerequisites of each other.
Mhm.
And so it was going to be a year and a half, no matter which way I looked at it, for a semester's
Mhm.
worth of hours. So I was
Mm.
like, I'm just going to trust my gut on this one
Yeah.
and go for it. Those hours will always be there if I ever needed to
Totally.
go back, but
Yep.
I've never regretted it.
Wow. And so then you went to your mom's cosmetology school. What was that experience like?
It was like I think a lot of times people are like, "Oh, that was probably easy. It probably came natural for you." Hair did not come natural for me, I think because
Mhm.
my mom did do hair.
Mm.
So, when I was younger, she would always, you know, if we were in a rush, she would fix my hair or
Okay,
like,
that is so real though, because my mom knew nothing how she would like surface brush my naturally wavy curly hair and just chop bangs and short.
"Yep,
And so I swear I got good at doing hair because I was like forced to. My daughter has she's 11. She has no idea how to do anything with her hair, but that's because anytime there's like a dress up event, let me curl it. It's going to look amazing. She's going to get all these compliments, but she never experiments with it herself because I'm so controlling and I just take over. And I think that all the anytime I'm like, I really need to just like let her do her thing with that. But anytime it's like a special event, I just do her hair for her. So that's
Well,
so
and
real.
it's faster and easier. And I'll tell my mom that you said that actually. I'm going to see her
Yeah.
later today. She'll be glad to hear that because I think sometimes she's like, "Did I do you a disservice?" But I didn't learn how to curl my own hair
Yeah.
until I left her house in high school because I
And you
never
can
had
literally
to.
get it professionally curled at any moment.
Exactly.
Why waste time? Why burn yourself? Why? That's very true. So I was literally just thinking that the other day when like a TikTok video came up with one of those straightening brushes. I was like, oh, I should get Skylar that. Like she literally doesn't do anything to her hair because it's either just like messy and we let it go, or I style it
Yep.
full blown style. That's so funny.
No,
So it
I
didn't
love
come
that.
natural to you. Did you enjoy, cosmetology school?
I did. My mom tried to be out of it as much as possible. At that time, she had two campuses. Now she's getting closer to retirement, so she's
Mm-hmm.
condensed back down to one.
Mm-hmm.
But she tried to stay at the campus that I wasn't at for the simple fact of like, she didn't want there to be like favoritism or any
Yeah.
questions about that. And
Yeah.
also, I got super nervous around her.
That makes
Um,
sense.
because I knew she was watching me more intently. And so she tried to
Mm-hmm.
kind of stay out of it as much as possible. But yeah, overall, I mean, school is school.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to get you to the next
Totally.
step. So
Totally.
yeah, there were some ups and downs, but overall it was a great experience.
That's amazing. And then what was your journey after cosmetology school?
So afterwards, I started working in the salon immediately. I didn't do
Okay.
like assisting and things. I'm from a small town and
Mm-hmm.
that's not really normal here,
Yeah.
right? Even still, which is crazy. But so I built my business kind of quickly, I think because
Mm-hmm.
of just word of mouth and I was in my hometown. I think that
Yeah.
helps a lot.
Yeah.
And then after I'd been doing hair for about 2 years, 2.5, I went back to school and got
Mm.
my instructor's license.
Okay.
And that's how I kind of got into education. Now, when I first graduated from the school the
Mm.
second time, I taught at my mom's school part-time, like two
Wow.
days a week.
Wow.
And then that's when I started my Instagram was about 2018-ish.
Amazing. What year did you graduate cosmetology school?
I graduated cosmetology school, I think in 2014, and then
Okay.
instructor school in 2017.
Okay, amazing. And then I know you shared, I was, talking with Samantha, like I said, when I was on her podcast, you since 2018 to today have had quite, a lot happen. Your life has changed a lot. It's been public. So you want to start kind of opening up and sharing about that?
Yeah, so I started my page and probably a year later, my entire life flipped upside down,
Mm-hmm.
which I always say it's a God thing, a
Mm-hmm.
universe thing, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
that all of this happened because I went through a really like crazy divorce and it was at the time that my page was growing and I was getting opportunities. And I just can't help but think that that has to be the universe or God's way of showing me like it's okay, everything's going to be all right
Like
because
the
I
shedding
think
of one thing into the birth of something new. Yeah.
yeah, because it was like my light at the end of the very dark tunnel I felt like I
Mm.
was in. And it quite literally was the thing that got me out of bed every day. And so
Mm.
I think that's led me to teaching these social media courses
Mm.
because I realize the the impact it had on my life.
Mm.
And I know that I'm not the only person that struggled with, mental health and,
Yeah.
fears and divorce and all the things. And I think that the platform I've been able to build, I think I can do a lot more with it than just hair techniques.
Hmm. How long were you married?
So we were married like I think like right at 3 years. We
Okay.
dated 2 years beforehand, so about 5 years total.
Yeah. And what was the kind of like cause of that, if you feel good going into that? I know you said that was a big part of your story.
Yeah, no. So to tell you the honest truth, I don't fully know exactly what happened.
Mm.
I know that he had some kind of reaction to something, whether it was a drug or
Oh.
life or it was it seemed like a psychotic break. That is what they
Mm.
told me it was. I don't
Mm.
know if it was chemically induced or just stress induced,
Mm.
but my ex-husband ended up he was hospitalized for about a week in ICU so they could
Mm.
detox him and kind of, figure out
Did
what was
he
going
struggle
on.
with drugs?
I didn't know that,
Yeah,
but
obviously you feel,
come
yeah.
to find out he was doing something behind my back. Now,
Mm.
it's not clear because after ICU, he went to a what's it called? A behavioral unit, like a
Wow.
to be monitored.
Yeah.
And while he was in there, you know, his drug tests, like the urine drug tests, were coming back as, his prescription medication that he was taking
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
nothing else. So I don't know if he was abusing that
Mm.
or what was going on, but I
Mm.
didn't do like a hair follicle or anything like that at the time because that
Mm-hmm.
just there was too much emotion going
It
on
didn't
for me to
matter.
make those
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't know he struggled with drugs until one day I came home from work and my neighbors and him were outside of my house and I was just like, wait, what's going on? Like
Mm.
something wasn't right. And I
Mm-hmm.
quickly figured out that it was just going to go downhill from there.
Wow. What like how much time would you say was between like were things good before then? Because it almost just feels like it was like an overnight thing, or was it not, I mean, good 3 years in?
Well, hindsight's 2020. And
Yeah.
so I see a lot of things. In the moment, it felt very all of a sudden.
Mm.
But looking back, I think that, me having that Instagram page and trying really hard to build that, and I was
Mm.
posting constantly, and I think I just ignored a lot of things.
Mm. You were
Um,
so focused on that. And maybe because other things were rough, maybe not,
for sure.
but it was definitely happening simultaneously. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean still today, like when you said what ended up happening, like I really don't know because
Mm.
the behavioral unit that he was put in, they really don't know either. He didn't open up about much. And like I
Did
said, we
he
didn't.
like snap out of that? Is he living a normal life now or no?
Yeah.
Wow. That's very
Yeah.
fascinating. I don't remember how much I shared on your podcast or not. When I first started dating my husband, he was addicted to heroin for years, and
Hmm.
that was like a big part of our story. And then my mother has mental health issues, and she's had like psychosis episodes. Like I totally hear what you're saying. I like want to dig in deeper to that, but I don't know if that's a good use of this time. But that's fascinating, unfortunate. And then was the divorce like long and drawn out, or were you just like, okay, I got to be done with this, and you guys just parted ways?
It was very fast. I'm somebody who needs answers, I guess. I don't like to make
Hmm.
decisions like a divorce, a
Yeah.
life-changing decision without
Yeah.
answers. But when he wouldn't open up and give them to me, I felt like I couldn't live the rest of my life not knowing what happened married to
Mm.
him. So now
Mm.
I live the rest of my life not knowing what happened, but at least I'm not in that
At
still.
least you're fading in that anymore. Yeah.
But the divorce was quick. I have no ill like wishes toward him. I think he's
Yeah.
doing great. And I think that whatever did happen, like it was for a reason. And
Yeah.
I, he still lives where I live and I run into him from time to time. And it's really weird getting a divorce with no children
Yeah.
because we quite literally act like we don't know who each
Yeah, and
other
you don't ever
are.
have to talk to each other ever again. Now, okay, I'm really sorry if this is too deep, but this is where
No,
my
it's
brain
not.
is.
You're fine.
Okay, were you like madly in love with him when you guys got married? Or like, because it's just, it feels kind of cold. I'm like, to go from that to that, the way you just kind of say it so matter of factly, I'm trying to understand.
Well, okay, so it's been 5 years. So I've
Uh-huh.
had time in therapy, but
Yeah.
no, to answer your
Yeah.
question, no, I was not.
Okay.
I didn't know that. Again,
Yeah, you
hindsight's
thought you were.
2020.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was. I also have a lot of unhealed issues with my dad. I don't speak to
Yeah.
my dad.
Mm.
So I think that I saw that my ex-husband was not like my dad, at least on the
Mm.
outside. Looking back now, the lying and the betrayal, he
Yeah.
is a lot like my dad, but
Yeah.
I didn't see that then. And
Mm.
so I
You're just like,
think
yep, this will do the trick. This is
yeah,
husband
like he won't
material.
hurt me. He won't
Mm.
he won't cheat on
Mm.
me. He
Yeah.
won't do all the things that I don't want people to do, I thought.
Mm.
So I was
Yeah.
like, this will work. I was 26 years old.
Wow.
I thought it was just the next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I mean, it sounds crazy to say, but I've since really worked on that too in myself and like, trusting my gut and not just doing
Mm.
things because I think I have to. And no, I was not madly in love with him.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
yeah, maybe at a time I was, but we grew
totally.
so much apart.
Well, and isn't it interesting? I don't know where I've heard this before, but I know I've heard this concept before that like you think back even to like childhood, like first love and things like that, and you love or you do whatever to the capacity that you can. And it
Mhm.
sounds like your capacity has grown so much that you realize that was just a small portion. You're now, so much more capable and have so much more capacity that it doesn't feel as impactful as it probably did back then. Mm.
Yeah, but really, when I think back on it, I knew at the hospital once they told me like what they thought was going on, like I knew in my heart that he wasn't going to do what it took
Mm-hmm.
to reassure me to the point that I needed to be reassured, you
Yeah.
know? And not that that issue was anything about me, but it's like in
Yeah.
a marriage, you have to make each other feel comfortable and safe and
Mm-hmm.
secure. And I knew immediately, I'm not kidding, like I actually looked at my mom and stepdad right after the doctor walked out of the room and I said, I'm going to get a divorce. So I knew
Wow.
immediately.
That was gonna be my next question is, did you have like a strong support system in that moment in time? Because that isn't an easy decision to make. Yeah.
I did. And, you know, my heart goes out to people with children and people
Mm-hmm.
who deal with like, you know, infidelity and things like that, because I think that although I knew and I was so sure, like I stayed at my mom's house for probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks on a
Mm-hmm.
blow up mattress, just like
Mm-hmm.
a shell of myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I had that support system. And then after about the 2, 3 week mark, my mom, which is at the time this sucked, but my mom was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you got to go home, you know,
Yeah.
like you
Make your
can't run from it
decisions.
forever.
Mm-hmm.
You got to lay
Yeah.
in the bed you made. And I was like, Mom, like, do you not love me?
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, no, I do love you. And that's why
That's
I'm sending
why.
you
Mm-hmm.
home. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a great support system. And again, I've since done therapy. And I think just once he left, it was like Lisa, my body was broken out in hives for
Mm.
probably 6 months leading up to that. It's like I knew, but I didn't know, you know?
Yeah. Like your body knew, but your mind wasn't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was protecting you too much to be there fully. Wow.
Yep. Yep.
Mm. Okay, and now I know you said like your page was growing. I don't know if you guys know. I was just looking at Sam's Instagram before we got on. She's at like 308,000 followers at this point. So like she has this very significant. This is her full-time gig. So when you say your page was growing, and I remember we were talking before, and I was asking you about your story. You said it felt like it was happening very publicly. And while I followed you in passing, I haven't followed you super closely. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't aware of that. So while I, of course, from your perspective, it felt very public. I'm sure people who followed you very closely were aware of that. But how do those worlds kind of mesh? And how was that like while that was growing and feeling public?
I don't think, again, looking back, I don't think I handled it in the way that I should have, that a
Okay.
therapist would tell me I should have.
Okay, so what did you
Um,
do and what should you have done in your, opinion now?
so what I did is I used all of my pain and my hurt and my
Mm,
confusion and my anger and all of the
mm,
emotions, and I put that 10 times into my page. I mean, I
mm,
just like ran with it. Okay.
mhm,
And so when my page grew, like that's why it grew. When I say
mhm,
this in my classes, like when you give 1,000,000% of yourself to
mhm.
something, it's gonna grow.
You just channeled everything into that. Yeah.
Yes, like if I was sad, I'd pick up my phone if I anything, and I would just like and
Were you
comment and
transparent that you were sad, or you were just doing like you were going through the motions? Like it was almost like robot at that point. Like you were just doing what you knew needed to be done, or were you like
robot.
sharing? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, robot. So
Um,
that is not what I recommend for anyone
mhm.
listening. What I should have done is gotten on and been honest with my community that I had built and told them what I was doing. I mean, I was going to like events with brands and stuff
Mm.
and just walking around like non-existent, but my body was there. And
Wow. Do you
that
look
makes
back on
me
those like photos and be like, wow, like that it doesn't even feel real? Yeah.
Yeah, like
Mm.
yeah. And I don't know if because again it was all at the beginning. So I don't know if those people
Mhm.
then thought that was weird, but now that they know me now, I know
Mm.
that they're like, "Who were you then?" You know?
Mm.
What I should have done is been honest and open and just maybe turned down those trips and just
Mm.
healed because my divorce really it hit me about a year and a half, 2 years later, all the
Okay.
emotions.
Mm.
So I think a therapist would have said in the beginning to feel and not numb out, you
Tell me
know?
about that experience, like when it started hitting you. What was that like?
So I got to a point where I needed to put my face on my page and I
Mhm.
needed to, I guess I didn't need to, but that was the next step.
You were feeling
I
called
wanted,
to, yeah.
I felt called and I wanted to share my story, but I couldn't get over that mental hump of getting out there. And so I think that whenever I was sitting in it and trying to dig deep and feel as to why this was going on, I think that's when it all surfaced of like, okay, I didn't heal the stuff with my dad. I got married to somebody that I wasn't fully in love with and
Mm.
got hurt in that process. The two most important men in my life have really hurt me.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, no wonder I have these fears and doubts and
Mm-hmm.
insecurities
Mm-hmm.
of other people hurting me again out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I did is I started journaling and writing down like what the worst case scenario could be. And
Mm-hmm.
I started like working more one-on-one with people to try to help me get over that.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I shared the story. And when I shared my story I put it on my YouTube. It was like a 20-minute video. It
Mm-hmm.
was like an elephant was taken off of me. It was
Wow.
like everything I'd ever held on to was gone, which is very weird if you've never been through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But something about
But instant relief. Like there wasn't fear after you posted it. It was just 100% that's what I was supposed to do.
there was fear before, not after. It was just
Okay.
like, oh my God. But before, I was like laying in my extra bedroom, like crying, like, I can't do this. I can't do this.
Oh.
And then I posted it and it was just like, oh my God, because it didn't own me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I had portrayed for so long online that I lived this, perfect life, this happy life. And I wasn't at a place mentally where I was ready to admit that, until
Mm-hmm.
a few years later.
What were people's response like when you opened up that way, especially since you really weren't vulnerable before then? How did people react to that?
I got so many messages about, thank you so much for sharing this. Like, I feel the exact
Mm-hmm.
same way. Like, I never knew that about you. Just all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of positive reassurance and really zero negative.
Wow. And so that obviously felt really good. And then I know you were saying when we talked a few weeks ago that like you love the content you're making, things like that, but you're really feeling pulled to kind of go like it sounds like a deeper direction. Like it sounds like and I've felt the same way too.
Mhm.
You open up, you get vulnerable, you get the taste of that, and it's like, okay, yeah, this feels good. This feels purpose
Mhm.
driven. Like I'm gonna keep going with that. So like where do you kind of stand with that right now?
Yeah, so I would love to work more one-on-one with people
Mm-hmm.
about, that are struggling with whether it's a family member or a spouse
Mm-hmm.
or whatever that has warped their minds. I think that,
Mm-hmm.
narcissism and manipulation and just belittling people to the point that they
Mm-hmm.
start believing those things. I know it's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know it happens to so many people.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't want to be known for a person who grew a large following because they posted hair tutorials.
Yeah.
I want to be known as someone who helps other people heal their wounds that they
Deeper
have.
than that. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's
Yeah.
really amazing and really special. So these classes that you're doing at like Premiere and other things like that, when like what are you teaching when it comes to social media right now? Give us like the cliff notes. Obviously, you can't teach us the whole class, but like what is it if people are listening to this, they want to follow you, they want to keep doing that, like what is kind of your jam when it comes to the social media stuff?
So I have at Premiere, I really did teach more basic level classes, but I also have a class that there's a couple of locations left this year where
Okay.
I talk a lot more about the mindset behind social media and how to get out of your own way. I talk about a lot of marketing and how to post to different, buyers and,
Mm.
sell in different ways without feeling like a used car salesman, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I talk about the actionable steps to take
Mm.
to get over that fear that I know all too well. And I actually have an activity that I did at Premiere where I
Yeah.
had people pull their phones out and record videos of themselves and just seeing that, like you said, that's what makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like
So,
you're on your flight home after that. Like that was next level. Like I impacted someone in a different way than just teaching a color class at that moment.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, and
get
I
that.
think that I see the benefit of making people not making, but encouraging people to and walking them through doing it, taking action right
Mhm.
then. Because a lot of times, like especially people that battle fear and stuff, like
Yeah.
you can talk to them all day, but when they go home and they're
Mhm.
by themselves, are they gonna do it?
So like let's just step outside your comfort zone right now. You're all rah-rahed up. Like now's the time to do it. So if you were to tell someone who's listening to this where they're like, "Oh, yes, I'm excited. I love this." One actual tangible piece of advice from today's podcast, like what would you share? Sorry, I know that's a loaded question right on the spot, but I'm curious.
No, so I think that journaling
Mm.
is super powerful. I think that
Mhm.
like, yes, therapy is also great, but I know some
Mhm.
people may not be able to afford therapy or whatever. I
Mhm.
think that just getting your thoughts out on paper,
Mhm.
typing them on a computer, speaking them
Mhm.
into your voice memos, and
Mhm.
checking in with yourself every day or every other day, I
Mhm.
think that you will start to see where that fear is coming from or that doubt or
Mhm.
whatever. And then you can start figuring out steps to step outside of that
Mhm.
because fear, like someone explained it to me that we think of fear of public speaking, of putting ourselves out there in the same way that we think of falling off of a cliff.
Mhm.
Like our brain is trying to keep us stuck
You're
and
gonna die.
safe.
Yeah.
Yep. And used
Mhm.
to the toxicity if it's a marriage or, the
Mhm.
negativity in a salon or whatever it is. We want to stay safe because that's what we know.
Yeah.
And our brain keeps trying to convince us that that fear is we're literally gonna die. But
Mhm.
I promise if you just take time to sit quietly and
Mhm.
figure out like the deeper root cause of everything, it
I love
seems
that. And I
easier.
think I think people go seeking that out so much. And I think, and I would love to hear more information too, so I'll get into that question. But I think we don't realize how much knowing is actually inside of us if we can just quiet the noise around us and actually like go there. And journaling is a practice of that, like uncovering enough of the ick around everything to get deeper. Like everyone's always looking for a solution. And I think what you're saying is like you can figure out your fear, you can get in there. I know you shared with me that you, after the divorce, all that, you hired a one-on-one coach and it made a really big impact on your life. But you were like, Lisa, he didn't even ask me anything that crazy. He made me think about these few things. And that was like all you needed, or it almost like gave you the permission. So, what were those few things that were like, changed everything for you? Because I wonder if that will land. So even if somebody's like, okay, journaling, they open up a piece of paper, now what? Like, what is that next level of like, what are we unpacking when we're doing that?
Well, I think what he did for me is he asked a lot of why questions. So
Mm,
if like when you said, tell me about your journey, like he, you could have stopped me and said, why did you do that? Why do you think you did that? And then I would start thinking like, well, I don't know. Why did I do that?
mm.
I think that there's actually an activity. I don't know if it's 7 whys or 5 whys
Yeah, I
where
think that's like Simon Sinek's Find Your Why. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And once you get to either the fifth or the seventh, whichever one it is, like
Mm-hmm.
that's your true answer. Because what our
Mm,
brains try to do, again, is keep us safe. So the 1 through 4 whys could be like the safeguarded version. But once you get to so far down, you run out of excuses or
mm,
things that you've convinced your brain of. And so I think that that is what I mean when I say that journaling will expose so much of what you already know. You just don't realize you know it yet.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And so whatever it is on your head that's getting in your way, or whatever doubts you have, whatever you fear, asking yourself why. You'll have an excuse. Here's why. Okay, why? Deeper than that, deeper than that. So like what's an example of one of those for you? Was it the divorce? Was it starting your Instagram page? Like what's an example of those whys that you guys kind of ran through?
No, we didn't run through any of my stuff
Okay.
like that. We actually working in that capacity is what made me realize how deep the wounds were with my dad.
Mm,
Up until that point, like I made the decision to not talk to my dad, so I didn't think in my brain that I had those betrayal wounds with him,
mm,
but I did. I just had never been asked questions about why I don't talk to my dad and how that was all handled.
mm.
So really that's what that opened up for me, and I think that
Wow.
just when you grow up with somebody who plants these fears in your brain from literally age 0, that is a
Yeah.
parent that you're supposed to be able to trust.
Mm,
And I'm not trying to talk negatively about my dad. I
totally.
think that I think that he could also benefit from journaling, and I think everyone
Hmm.
could. I
Yeah.
think parents do the best they can. So I'm
With the
not
tools
bashing
that they
him,
have. Yep. Yep.
but I also know what it did to me. And
Mm,
I have half siblings. Maybe he doesn't do that to them. Maybe I'm just very sensitive. But what I
who
know is
knows?
it hurt me.
And that
And
stayed with you. Yeah.
yes, and so once you hear those things, whether
Mm,
they were meant that way or not, you believe them. And I
mm,
fully believed every single thing that I had to the point that I couldn't post my face online. I mean, I
mm,
couldn't do it. I couldn't.
mm. When you're doing coaching with people, and I know this is kind of a newer journey that you're taking, but is that kind of what you're trying to do, is hold the space of like, there's clearly a big block in the way. You could take so many classes about how to put together a reel, about how to do whatever, but like, if there's actually that massive block there, let's dig in and unpack that together. Like, if people are having trouble getting there, is that kind of the intention or?
Yeah, definitely. And growing up, I was always told that you can't ask that question, Samantha. Don't ask people that.
Mm.
That's too deep. But, I think that that's my uniqueness, my special sauce,
Mhm.
or whatever you want to call it, is that
Mhm.
I don't think questions are too deep. And I think that if
Yeah.
someone feels uncomfortable, they can tell me. But yeah,
Mhm.
I want to work with people that are ready to heal. I
And you
want to
know
work
what? What you just said there is so meaningful because how many of us actually would like to be asked deep questions? Like,
for
truthfully,
sure.
I think most people actually want someone to ask the deep questions, and we all stay so surface level that you feel so seen and validated when people finally do ask. Obviously, there's right context and, but in a coaching environment, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. Because I mean, when you're talking more surface level, the person who's struggling is like, well, my gosh, like everything I'm going through, I'm the only one dealing with it clearly, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not. And
No.
and I'm someone that believes that, things that come up in us didn't just happen a week ago. They go back to our grandparents and our great grandparents. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
generational things.
Yes.
And so maybe I should have been a therapist, but I think that now I'm ready to channel my curiosity and
Mm,
my ability to listen and to understand people. And I'm
mm,
ready to take that and coach and
yeah.
take it to the next level for sure.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely doing that. I remember when we recorded your podcast, you were like, I'm just curious. So you start telling your story. I'm going to ask you a million questions. I loved that format. I thought that was so much fun. So I'll definitely also link Samantha's podcast in the show notes as well. So everyone can give a listen to that because you're definitely doing that right now. And I think it's incredible. And I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to dive in and chat about all these things. Is there anything else you feel called to like share or anything else you want to dive into today?
No, again, like you said, it's also new, so I don't have like offers
Hmm.
yet, but I'm working
Totally.
on them right now. I do have classes coming up. I can send you the link to those as well.
Okay.
And then, yeah, if anybody wants to chat more or wants to be informed of when this stuff drops,
Yeah.
then they can go to my website and get on the email list or
Awesome.
send me a DM. I'm always on social media. I am trying to not be so much on it today as I
Yeah.
used to be
Yeah.
because there's so much life out there too, but
Hmm.
but I do check them and it is me on there. It's nobody else running it.
Yes.
So definitely reach out.
I love that. And while I know you're working behind the scenes and kind of putting these offers together just from somebody who's been doing quite a bit of offers for a while now, I'm going to tell you, I think that just actual real conversations with real people are how to build the best offers. Like rather than, because we can spend so much time behind the scenes putting together this perfect thing to launch to the world. But I think exactly what you just said right there, like if anybody really resonates with this, she's a human, reach out to her. And sometimes those conversations are what actually then becomes a format and a structure later. So I
For
love that. I
sure.
think that's amazing. So yeah, you can definitely give me all the information you want me to share with everyone, and I can do that. And I'm really grateful. I know that I said this when we talked a few weeks ago, but I feel like again, like I said, I kind of have known you for a little bit. I'm so glad we're like on more real life kind of terms like this, and we get to know each other, better like we have over these last couple podcast episodes. And I'm sure this will maybe be the first of many, and we can continue this conversation as you continue to roll these things out. But from one fan or follower, I will just say I have so enjoyed. You've give so much to the industry. I've enjoyed consuming your content for so long. I still enjoy it. I love the way you show up on stories. I love the way you share your life. I'm so inspired by you. So I just
Oh,
appreciate you coming on.
well, thank you. I love talking to you too. And yeah, I think it's the first of many,
Yeah,
many things maybe in the future. So everyone
awesome.
stay tuned for that.
Yep, I love that idea. Okay. Thank you, friends, for listening. I will talk to you all next week. Like I said, everything that we talked about today, I'll make sure I have it linked down below. So thanks again. Bye.